Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got another deck profile for you today. This time I'm presenting a different version of my Dark Magician deck. I went back, rebuilt it, kind of wanted to try some new things with it, and it just occurred to me that I forgot that there was a Windwitch variation of it. And I figured, okay, sure, why not? Let's build the Windwitch. So I kind of built it to where this deck is more anti-meta based, where you basically lock out your opponent with Secret Village of Spellcasters, just primarily like negate your opponent with various other negations and spot removal by banishment and all that. So, yeah, let's go and get started, and I'll show you what I got. Okay, so starting off, of course, going to be playing 3 Dark Magician. It's the OG Yugi's Boss Monster card. Cannot be hit with Widowmaker since it's a normal monster, so that's really good. Next up, 3 copies of a Princess Illusion Magician. Free summon just by discarding 1 card. And she searches out Dark Magician, and she acts as an honest towards Dark Spellcaster monsters, so that's pretty solid. The best normal summon in the entire deck is Magician's Rod. Searches out all your Dark Magician related spells and traps, primarily your Circle, your Eternal Soul, your Navigation. Those kind of cards you definitely need to get out as quickly as you can. And of course, 2 copies of Magician of Dark Illusion. Counts as Dark Magician while he's on the field. You can special summon him for free as long as you activate a spell or a trap during your opponent's turn. And if you activate a spell or trap, you can special summon a Dark Magician from your grave, so he acts as a Monster Reborn based card. And that's pretty much it for the Dark Magician monster core. Moving on. Gonna be playing 3 copies of Windwitch Icebell. This card's amazing. It's a free summon as long as you control no monsters. And if you do, you can special summon another Windwitch directly from the deck and inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, whether this card is normal or special summoned. The only restriction it has is that you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn from the extra deck except wind monsters. But generally that's never an issue. The whole point of this deck is just to, build up your board with boss monsters and also locking out your opponent with as many spellcasters as you possibly can. 2 copies of Glass Bell. This card is special summon. You can, normal or special, you can add a Windwitch from your deck to the hand. And of course you can't special summon any other monsters except wind monsters, but generally you always summon your Dark Magician cards from during your opponent's turn anyway, so that's why it never really hinders you at all. And 1 copy of Snowbell just to get into the invincible Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. But yeah, as long as you control 2 wind monsters and no others, you can special summon this card for free as well. And of course, going to be playing 1 copy of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Searches out your secrets or your knowledge. So you definitely want to get those cards into your hands as quickly as possible, just to, not only do you get to grind out your deck, but you also get to get some pluses out of them too. And the only hand traps I'm playing are 3 copies of Ash, and that's it. Nothing else. So that's about 21 monsters, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, so moving on to the spells. Playing 3 copies of Secret Village of Spellcasters. If you control a spellcaster, your opponent cannot activate spells. Of course, if you control no spellcaster, you can activate spells, but our entire deck is spellcaster, so there's no reason not to be able to have yourself locked out. So Secret Village of Spellcasters, definitely a great must-have. 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle. This lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck for a Dark Magician or Dark Magician related spell or trap. I'm sorry, and then you can add 1 to your hand and then rearrange the cards in any order. Whenever a Dark Magician is summoned, you get to banish 1 card your opponent controls. So great way to get rid. It's just a great spot removal card in general. Next up, 2 copies of Spellbook of Secrets. And 2 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge, just to get, just so you can draw 2 cards. You can send 1 spellcaster you control, or 1 other spellbook card from your hand, or face up on the field to the grave and just draw 2 cards. For the 1-ofs, playing 1 copy of Illusion Magic. Just tribute 1 spellcaster to add 2 copies of Dark Magician from your deck to your hand, or from your grave to your hand. 1 Dark Magic Inheritance, just to banish 2 spells, and then you can add any Dark Magician related spell or trap. 1 Dark Magic Attack for back row removal, and Monster Reborn. And that's pretty much it for the spells. Alright, for the trap cards, I'm only playing 5 in this deck. Playing 3 copies of Magician's Navigation, this is standard, but only 2 copies of Eternal Soul, just because since I don't have the added protection of Dark Magician the Dragon Knight in this deck, I only like to run it at 2, because if it gets popped, all my monsters go. So that's why I'm only going to be playing it at 2 from now on. Alright, so moving on to the extra deck. Got 1 copy of Summoned Sorceress. Everything is in this deck is Spellcaster. And it's real easy to get multiple monsters on the board, so it's real easy to bring this out and just extend your plays. One Windwitch's Apprentice. Half your deck is dark attributes, so also a pretty simple monster to summon. One Cleave Genius, since we do run the Tomahawk in this extra deck, as well as Sky Saber. I'm actually going to replace it for Power Code Talker instead, because it just requires 2+ monsters and it's not too specific on its requirements. So just generally trying to make good use of all those Tomahawk tokens. One Nightmare Unicorn, Cerberus, and Phoenix. More spot removal. That's generally what this deck is focused on, just spot removal and just OTK your opponent. And lastly, one Borlo Dragon. And that's pretty much it for the links. For the XCs, we got number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk, one Big Eye, which is our mind control, one Ebon Illusion Magician. Once again, spot removal, banishment. It's a great way just to really stun your opponent. Norito, the Moral Leader. And for the synchros, you got Windwitch Winterbill, Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And that's generally it. The only bad thing about the banishment in this deck is that it's not a good matchup against Thunder Dragons, but we got other ways, to bounce them back to get rid of Thunder Dragons, like the Nightmare Unicorn, and I have some cards on the side, which we'll get to right away. Moving on, we got on the side deck. I found that this was a great tech choice, Fairy Tale Luna, actually. I was about to say Snow by accident. But not only does it let you search out another copy of itself, but during either player's turn, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. He has to send one card with that monster's name from their deck or extra deck to the graveyard to negate its effects. So it's a good way just to stun out Thunder Dragon players specifically, or even Altergeist players, because you don't want them to set off as much as, because they're just gonna hurt you pretty badly if you don't stop them soon enough. Playing 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Since this deck primarily shuts down spell card users. In case if I'm not up against a spell heavy deck or anything like that, Call by the Grave is a good way to, just to take out a few things, and I'll just put this in. 3 Cosmic Cyclones to deal with Altergeist primarily, because again, Banishment is a little bit better. It's also good against Sky Strikers because they get their advantage primarily in the graveyard. So the more spells they have in the graveyard, the more dangerous they become. Of course, if you don't like Cosmic Cyclone, you can also go with Hate Trunade. I think Hate Trunade is just as good of an option to go with. So, or Twin Twisters if you so prefer. But me personally, I'd just rather play Cosmic Cyclone, because again, Banishment, in my opinion, for this deck is just better. Playing 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force, which is really good against Thunder Dragons, because they're going to be using up a lot of their resources, and it's better just to bounce it back rather than Banishment, because sometimes they get their effects off Banishment, so you definitely want to be careful with that. And finally, 3 copies of Torrential Tribute, which is just good against any deck that, let's say Dark Warrior or anything. As soon as they start summoning their board with monsters, you definitely want to wipe them out as quickly as you can and just stun them. So, yeah. Alright guys, well that's all I got for you today, and hopefully you guys enjoy this, and I'll catch you guys again on the next video.